Hello dear students, welcome back again to Chinmoyee's biology channel. So today we are here with a brand new episode of life processes, that is for CBSE 10th biology first lesson. So till now you have already studied many lessons on this life processes, but in 10th we are going to discuss all in a bit details. So without further delay, let's get started with the first lesson of biology, life processes. So what we are going to learn today? We are going to learn today about what are life processes. We are going to learn today in details about nutrition, how do living things get food, and today we are going to start about autotropic nutrition. So the second part of nutrition, that is the heterotropic nutrition, and the nutrition in human beings, we will be carrying in the next video, as it will be very long if I continue all in today's episode. So for that you need to subscribe to my channel. You need to know when I am putting the updates on YouTube channel. So please do subscribe, stay updated and listen to what I am teaching. I try my best to teach in a lucid and systematic manner, and with all notes which are important for you are given in your classes. So please stay tuned, stay updated, and let's get started with today's lesson of life processes. So today we are starting with the first biology lesson in your 10th standard. So as per your curriculum, as per your CBSE syllabus, the life processes is the first lesson. So you have already studied this in the previous classes, but today in 10th standard we will be starting it with bit details. So what is the difference first? Tell me, what is the difference between that we are alive and something is not alive? Okay, so we can see a dog is running, a cow is chewing cud, a man is shouting loudly on the street. So we know that all these living beings, these are all living beings. So what if the dog or the cow is sleeping? Are they alive or they dead? So how can we make it out? So first of all, we see that if they are breathing or not. So breathing is very important life process to find out whether the person is alive or not. Now when we see green plants, some of us will say that the leaves are moving, the color of the plants is green, but they are not moving from one place to another. Okay, but they grow over time, so we know that they are alive. So some all are having different life processes. Okay, in other words, we tend to think that some sort of movement, either growth is related or which is not a common evidence for being alive. But a plant, this is not visibly growing, is still alive. So plant, suppose a plant for last 5 years is of the same height, so it's not growing that much also, but we can make it out that it's alive. So some animals can breathe without visible movement also. So using visible movement as the defining characteristic of life is not enough. So you can not tell that a thing which is having a movement is alive. No, you can move. A car is also movable, a cycle is also movable, a motorbike is also movable, but they are not living beings, right? So there are certain life processes which should be there in our body. Our body should maintain those life processes to make us alive. So movements over small scales will be visible to other naked eye, like movements of molecules, for example. Is this visible molecular movement necessary for life? If we ask this question to professional biologists, they will say yes. So viruses do not show any molecular movement in them. So until and unless they are going to some body, in their body, in that body they are infecting some cells, and that is partly why there is a controversy about whether they are truly alive or not. So virus is truly alive or not, it depends on, there is a controversy. So until and unless it is infecting a person, you can't tell that virus is it's a living thing. So why these molecular movements are needed for life? So we have seen earlier in the previous classes also, in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and all, that living organisms are well organized structures. Okay, so they are having tissues, tissues have cells, and cells have smaller components in them. So is it clear? So because of the effects of the environment, this organized, ordered nature of living structures is very likely to keep breaking down over time. Now, if the order breaks, the organism will no longer be alive. So this tissue, this organized matter, well organized matter of living beings, if that breaks down, the living organisms won't be alive. Okay, if this we can say that so the living creatures must keep repairing and maintaining their structures. So since all these structures are made up of molecules, they must move molecules around all the time. So the molecules are not static in nature, they keep on moving all around time. So what are the maintenance processes in living organisms? So let us explore. Now we will be starting with the life processes. What are those in the next slide? So now we are discussing what are life processes. So the maintenance functions of living organisms must go on even when they are not doing anything in particular. Suppose you are sitting idle, you are not reading, you are not studying anything, you are not doing any work, still your body is performing several life processes, right? You are breathing, your internal metabolic activities inside your body is going on, constant digestion process, your heart is beating. So these are all the main life processes which are always going on in a person who is living. Whereas when television, suppose a table or a chair, it's not in a motion, if you are not dragging or moving it, no life processes or nothing is going on inside that. So even when we are just sitting in a class, even if you are just asleep, this maintenance of job has to go on, right? So now, since this maintenance processes are needed to prevent the damage and breakdown, so it is needed to prevent the damage in your body, inside your body, and the breakdown energy is needed for them. And this energy comes from outside the body of the individual organism, right? So it comes from outside. So just try to understand it properly, because there are many questions which will be coming on this description only. So there must be a process to transfer the source of energy from outside the body to the organism, right? So there must be a source from outside the body of the organism. So what is that source? That is called the food to inside the body, and a process we commonly call as nutrition. So the first process in the life processes, what it comes, it's nutrition, right? So the first process is nutrition. So the first process in the life processes, what we take is nutrition. That is, something from the outside is being provided. So if the body size of the organism is to grow, additional raw material will also be needed from outside. So what are the raw materials needed from outside? That is through the food. That is through nutrition. So since life on earth depends on carbon-based molecules, most of these food sources are also carbon-based. So what are the foods we eating? They are also carbon-based. Depending on the complexity of these carbon sources, different organisms can then use different kinds of nutritional processes. Okay. So the outside sources of energy could be quite varied, since the environment is not under the control of the individual organism. So whatever is being supplied from outside, they can be varying from one to another, because the environment is not under our control. So these sources of energy are therefore need to be broken down and built up inside the body. So whatever food we are taking, they are broken down within the body by several chemicals and enzymes to their end product, so that it is easier for the body to absorb. So whatever we are eating, it's not being absorbed by like that only. They are being digested, they are being assimilated, and they are then being absorbed. So which must be finally converted to uniform source of energy that can be used for the various molecular movements needed for maintaining the life structures as well. Okay, and then only as well as to the kind of molecules in which the body needs to grow. So for this, a series of chemical reactions in the body are necessary. So these all chemical reactions, they fall under the we can say that these are all biochemical reactions. These are all biochemical reactions. So they are being formed under the body. So these are all biochemical reactions. So now for this, many organisms, they use oxygen sourced from outside the body. The process of acquiring oxygen from outside the body and to use it in the process of breakdown of food sources to cellular needs is called the respiration. So first we told that something is necessary from outside to produce energy. So what is that? That is nutrition, or that is food. Next, for acquiring oxygen from outside, to use it for the breakdown of food sources for the cellular needs, what we call is called the respiration. Is it clear? Now, in the case of single cell organism, what is happening? No specific organs are there for taking food. Exchange of gases or removal of wastes may be needed for the entire surface of the organism which is in contact with the environment. So, the entire surface is in contact with the environment. So, entire surface must be working as a organ only, which helps in the exchange of food also, exchange of gases also, and removal of wastes also. Okay, so the body design is like that only. So the body, now gradually the body becomes complex, and the multicellular organisms, all the cells may not be direct contact with the surrounding. So through simple diffusion, the simple diffusion will not meet the requirements of the cell. Here in single celled, simple diffusion will meet the requirements of the cell. Okay, so here simple diffusion will only do. But in the multicellular organism, simple diffusion will not do. So they need several other processes. So we have been previously seen that many multicellular organisms, various body parts have specialized functions which they perform. So we are familiar with the idea of these specialized tissues and with their organism in the body of the with their organization in the body of organism. So it is therefore not surprising that the uptake of food and oxygen will also be the function of specialized tissues. So there should be several tissues which are helping to perform several functions in the body. So however, this poses a problem since food and oxygen are now taken up at one place in the body of the organism while all parts of the body need them. So food is taken through one part and oxygen is also taken through one part, but throughout the body food and oxygen is required. So this situation creates a need for transportation system for carrying food and oxygen from one place to another. Now what we need? We need some kind of transportation system to carry the food and oxygen throughout our body. So when chemical reactions use carbon source and oxygen for energy generation, they create byproducts which are not only useless for the cells of the body, but they are very much harmful. Now then for this transportation, then here we can see that the circulation process comes into being. So the first came nutrition, then came in life process, that is respiration. Now for the transportation we need circulation. Okay, now as the byproducts are very harmful, they need to be eliminated. So here comes the elimination process or excretion. So we are getting so many processes here only, right? So this comes excretion. So these waste byproducts are therefore needed to be removed, and that process is called excretion. Now again, if the basic rules of the body are they are designed in multicellular organisms followed by a specialized tissue, then we can say that excretion will be developed, which means that transportation system will be needed for transporting waste away to the excretory tissue. So now here are 4 questions that we are going to discuss in the next slide. Now, so let us consider that various processes, these various processes, and so they are very essential to maintain life one by one. So we will be discussing all these one by one. So first we will start with nutrition. So before that, let us look at these 4 questions. This all I have discussed above only. So take out your answer book, take out your copy where you are writing the answers, and make it a separate copy that while teaching whatever questions we are getting, you will write the answers there. So why is diffusion insufficient to meet oxygen requirements in multicellular organisms like humans? I have told that in unicellular organism, diffusion is sufficient because their full body is exposed to the environment, but in multicellular organisms, the full body parts, all body parts are not exposed to the environment. Now, what criteria do we use to decide whether something is alive or not? First of all, we told that there are many criteria, but the first one is we should see whether a person or an animal or an organism is breathing or not. So many criteria are there: breathing, growth, externally we can, whatever, it's being visible. movement, but not in all cases. So just go through the above description what I have told and write related to that only. So what are the outside raw materials used for any organism? So outside raw materials means we need food from outside. That is, nutrition is required from outside for maintaining our full body, for giving energy to our body, for all other purposes or metabolic processes. We need the raw materials, that is food from outside. So what processes would you consider essential for maintaining life? So what all processes we have discussed today earlier, in the summary you should write that what are the main processes. So today we will be starting with nutrition first. So now we are here with the first process, that is nutrition. So what is nutrition? When we walk or ride a cycle, we are using up our energy. So these are just examples we are giving. So even when we are not doing any apparent activity, energy is needed to maintain the state of order in our body. If we are sleeping also, we need to provide our body with certain energy that is required to perform the internal activities. So we also need materials from outside in order to grow, develop, synthesize protein and other substances needed in the body. Now this source of energy and materials is the food we eat. So food we eat means it is related to nutrition. Now how do living organisms get their food? Now the general requirement of or energy materials is common in all living organisms, but it is fulfilled in different ways. Some organisms use simple food material obtained from inorganic sources in the form of carbon dioxide and water. These organisms are called autotrophs. So they are taking carbon dioxide and water from the environment. They are in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. They are making their own food. They are autotrophs. They include green plants and some bacteria. But we, the human beings and other organisms, they utilize the complex substances. Those have to be broken down into simpler ones. Before that, before being used up for the growth of the body. So to achieve this, organisms use biocatalysts called enzymes. So you have already studied catalysts in chemistry. So what are catalysts? Which are enhancing or increasing the rate of a reaction. So like that only within our body we are having enzymes which are enhancing the rate of the reaction or helping the reactions to happen in a good manner or in a faster manner. So thus the heterotroph survival dependent directly or indirectly on the autotroph. So if the plants are producing food, from that only we are getting fruits, we are getting vegetables. So everything depends on the we heterotrophs are depending on the autotrophs. So heterotrophic organisms including humans and the animals and fungi. Okay, so now first we are starting with autotropic nutrition. Now we are starting with autotropic nutrition. So autotropic nutrition, I told you earlier also, that is what are the plants doing? They are using the carbon and energy. They are using the carbon and energy requirements for the autotropic organism and are being fulfilled by the photosynthesis. So it is the process by which the autotrophs take in substances from outside and convert them into stored form of energy. So this material is taken in the form of carbon dioxide, water, which is converted into carbohydrates in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Is it clear? So it is converted into carbohydrates in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. So carbohydrates are utilized for providing the energy to the plants. So we will study now how this take place in the next section. So the carbohydrates which are not used immediately, these are stored in the form of starch. So when the carbohydrates are immediately used in certain processes in plants, they are being utilized, but the part which is not being used, they are stored in the form of starch. Is it clear? They are stored in the form of starch, and from this reserve they are used as and when required by the plant. A somewhat similar situation is seen in us also, when some of the energy derived from the food we eat has been converted into glycogen. So this glycogen again is being broken down and converted to glucose for energy supply in our body. When we are fasting or when our body is not getting enough supply of carbohydrates or glucose. So these are all the processes or the metabolic processes you will be studying, like glycolysis, glycogenolysis. These are all breakdown of glucose to glycogen, glycogen to again glucose. These are all biochemical reactions which are happening in our body in the presence of certain biocatalysts or enzymes. Is it clear? Now let us move on to this photosynthesis process only. Now what is happening in this? The plants are absorbing 6 molecules of carbon dioxide with 12 molecules of water in presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, and what is the end product? They are getting glucose, oxygen and water is being produced. Now let us now see what actually is happening during the process of photosynthesis. Now in details we are discussing absorption of light energy by the chlorophyll has happened here, conversion of light energy into chemical energy, and by the splitting of the water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen has happened in the reaction. Okay, so step by step the reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrates, it has formed. So now let us see what is this. This is a leaf blade, this is a lamina, this one is the midrib. Now when we take this picture, this is from the midrib, we have cut it open. Here only we have seen the phloem xylem vascular bundle here. Now just the cross section of the leaf, if you are taking this upper part is the chloroplast, in between which there are certain air spaces. Now in the lower part we know that there are stomata cells. The stomata are present in the lower part of the leaf, and the stomata, they are all guarded by the guard cells in the lower epidermis of the leaf. So in the upper epidermis there is a waxy cuticle. So this is the upper epidermis, it is having a waxy cuticle. Then comes the layer of chloroplast, in between which there are certain air spaces. Then comes the guard stomata with all the guard cells. Okay, so these steps need not take place one after the other immediately. These 3 steps what we discussed here. For example, what do desert plants do? They are a bit different from the land plants. They take up carbon dioxide at night only, and they prepare an intermediate which is acted upon by the energy absorbed by the chlorophyll during the day. So an intermediate is prepared, and when in the daytime the sunlight is absorbed by the chlorophyll during the day, this reaction starts. So let us know how each of the components of the above reaction are necessary for photosynthesis. Okay, so we can say that if you carefully observe the cross section of the leaf under a microscope, you will notice that some cells contain green dots. Okay, so these green dots, cell organelles, are called chloroplast. If you are observing the cross section of a leaf, you will observe the green dots. These are cell organelles called the chloroplasts, which contain the chlorophyll cells. And let us do this activity down here, which demonstrate that chlorophyll is essential for photosynthesis, right? So next slide we will be discussing with the activity. So let's take this activity 5.1 now. So take a potted plant with variegated leaves. So what is variegated leaves here? So it is actually the leaves which are not fully green, so might be some other colors are there. So they are spotted leaves, right? So they are mainly like money plants or crotons, so they are not fully green. So what we are doing, we are keeping the plant in a dark room for 3 days so that all the starch gets used up. So we all know that in dark room, as there is absence of sunlight there, no photosynthesis will happen, and whatever stored starch was there, it will be used up by the plant. So now again we are keeping the plant in sunlight for about 6 hours. Now then we are plucking a leaf from a plant. We are marking the green areas in it and tracing them on a sheet of paper. Okay, so this is what we are doing. We are tracing them on a sheet of paper and marking the green areas. Now we are dipping the leaf in boiling water for a few minutes. So we are dipping the leaf. As the leaf has become hard, now we are carefully we place above the, now we, after boiling this and after dipping the leaf in boiling water, we are immersing it in a beaker containing alcohol. Now carefully place the above beaker in water bath and heat till the alcohol begins to boil. So once we dip the leaf in alcohol, then we are placing carefully the alcohol in a water bath till it begins to boil. Now when the leaf, this happens what happens to the color of the leaf? What is the color of the solution now? So these are the questions in our mind. So what will happen? So now dip the leaf in a dilute solution of iodine for a few minutes and take out the leaf and rinse off the iodine solution. So observe the color of the leaf and compare this with the tracing done in the leaf in the beginning. So what we are seeing, what we can conclude from the above thing about the presence of starch in various parts of the leaf. What is the conclusion? So we are concluding that only the parts which were green previously, they turned black with iodine solution. That is, this shows that chlorophyll is always necessary for photosynthesis. So the parts which contained chlorophyll pigments, there only photosynthesis happened. That is, there only the production of starch happened. And this starch production actually in these variegated leaves, they showed, or they have proved positive in this iodine test. So in iodine test, those parts which were previously green only, they got the black color, and this proves that chlorophyll is obviously necessary for photosynthesis. Is it clear to all? Now we will move on to the next part. Now let us now study the plant. It obtains carbon dioxide. So how it obtains carbon dioxide, we want to see that. Now in class 9, we have already talked about the stomata, which are tiny pores present on the surface of the leaves. So they are present mainly in the lower epidermis of the leaf. Massive amounts of gaseous exchange takes place in the leaves through these pores for the purpose of photosynthesis. So what are these? These are stomata. Okay, these are stomata. These are guarded by two guard cells. This is the stomatal pore, and these are guarded by the guard cells, and these are all chloroplast cells. Okay, so in the morning, daytime, the stomata, these what we will say that in the lower epidermis, this stomatal cells, they are open and they are guarded by the guard cells. So but it is important to note that the exchange of gaseous gases across the full stems, roots, leaves occurs. So it occurs throughout the roots, stems, leaves. The large amount of water can also be lost through these stomata. Okay, so transpiration also happens through these stomatal pores. So the plant closes this pores when it does not need carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. So suppose it doesn't require this for photosynthesis. So at that time, when enough carbon dioxide is already present inside the plants for preparation of food, these cells, they close. So the opening and the closing of the this pore is depending on the guard cells, and the guard cells swell when the water flows into them, causing the stomatal pore to open. Similarly, the pores closen is if the guard cells, they shrink. So if the water is lost from the guard cells, they shrink, and the guard cells close. So during transpiration process, the guard cells close and the stomatal openings close. Is it clear? Now we will move on to activity 5.2. Let us see what is there in this one. So there is another activity 5.2. Now this activity we will be taking it to the next class, because already we have learned so many things in this class, and it will be too much for us to continue with this experiment also. So till the stomata, opening and closing of the stomatal pore, we will keep it today. We will take this activity to the next class, and with that we will be studying the heterotropic nutrition also in the next class. So you need to subscribe to my channel to know more regarding this lesson as well as the upcoming lessons which I'll be teaching as per your curriculum. So stay tuned, stay updated, and please do like and share my lessons. If you are liking, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to it. Thank you.